Welcome to the comeback season, where we have real conversations about fueling your body, rebuilding strength, and stepping back into the life you were meant to live. Whether you've been caring for kids, aging parents, or just lost sight of your own needs, we see you. And this is your season to rise. Hello, my name is Nicole McLeod with Healthy Mind, Healthy Body. I'm a mindset and fitness coach and the author of I Started on a Tuesday. I know what it feels like to lose yourself in the chaos and still hold on to the hope that something better is coming.
And I'm Christi Kelsey from Christi Counts Macros, nutrition and mindset coach and food freedom advocate. I've worked with lots of women who felt stuck, restricted, and unsure where to even begin. Together, we're bringing you honest conversations, healing truths, and real strategies to help you rise again, physically, mentally, and emotionally, whether you've hit rock bottom or you're just tired of putting yourself last. This space is for you because this is your comeback season and it starts right now. Welcome back to the Comeback Season podcast. I'm Christy, and today we are talking to Andrew Quebbemann. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Christy, thanks for inviting me on.
Yes, thanks for being here today. On this podcast, we talk a lot about reinvention and the comeback season of life. Many of our listeners are women in their 40s, 50s, and beyond who are navigating changes, career shifts, empty nests, relationships, health struggles, or simply just wanting to take more ownership of their future. And today, with Andrew, we are going to be talking about our financial comeback. So, Andrew, why don't you start us off with telling us about yourself and how you got into what you're doing?
Sure. And I think, for what you said, taking control of your future, I think a lot of that topic is really parallel to what we're going to talk about today. So yeah, I'm a financial advisor, and really I see myself, my job, my service that I offer to the world is I help families really create options and flexibility for themselves in their financial life with simple and compassionate planning.
Mhm.
And for me, simple, sometimes I think people differentiate, simple as something that like is old or it needs to be more complex to be more effective and,
Mhm.
constant innovation, right? But I think real simplicity in anything stems from getting the very best service with something that is also the most convenient to use.
Mhm.
And so just take like a simple example. You can turn a screw with a screwdriver and you can turn a screw with a drill.
Mhm.
But if you've got two different sizes and the job size is different, right? Maybe the drill is, more effective. Maybe the screwdriver is more effective. But at the end of the day, you're kind of capturing the same thing. So,
Mhm.
uh, anyway, so that's a little bit about what I do, and otherwise living in California with my wife and a little dog, Colt. He's a corgi, and he absolutely loves the beach, and so we are really enjoying our time out here. And sorry to all of you on the East Coast that really got hammered this winter. I sympathize.
Yeah.
I grew up in Wisconsin, so I do know what snow and ice looks like.
Yes. Yes. Well, I'm excited to dive into this conversation. So, when someone comes to you and they haven't, um, let's say someone who's in their 40s or 50s comes to you and they haven't really been set up financially yet, saving up
hmm
for retirement or future purchases, where do you get them started?
Yeah, that's a great question. Where to start is where you are today, and I would say like there's no shame in a dollar.
Hmm.
So when we're going through this, and when I have conversations with people in their 40s and 50s, a lot of times they might feel bad that, like you said, maybe they haven't done this before, or they were just tucking money into their 401k. And if you're listening, you've done that, that's a great step.
Hmm.
And maybe now you're starting to think about, well, what happens when I get to retirement? Or how do I make sure that my family or my favorite charity is maybe they get a little bit extra that, just because I work so hard, I'd like to share what I have accomplished with, the people I love in my life. And so where we start is, hey, it's okay for what you've done, whatever that looks like.
Mhm.
It's That's where we are. And in the financial world, we're not plumbers. So for things that have happened in the past, if the pipes burst and the water's gushing out, not a lot of any financial professional can really do to help you, but we can certainly help on the front end and plot
Mhm.
things out. And so that first conversation goes along the lines of goals and priorities and kind of gauging where you're at with your knowledge and then meeting you there. It's
Mhm.
okay that you've not kept up with different things. That's what we're here for. That's what the professionals are. It's the same reason you take your car to a mechanic.
Mhm.
Anyone can probably figure out how to change their oil. At the end of the day, you pull a plug and let stuff go out and then you put it back in. But you have someone else do it because they're more efficient at it. They have the ins and outs and the tools and everything else that goes with all that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we start usually.
Mhm. Yeah, I like what you said about starting where you are and there's no shame in a dollar. And I think that sometimes people think that because they don't have a lot, that,
Mhm.
there's no point in looking into how can I invest or how can I grow this dollar.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good opportunity to um, just expand your view on what a dollar can do.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, the dollar is a tool.
Hmm.
And all the people I've ever talked to, even in my personal life, right before I became a financial advisor, no one ever came back and told me, oh, they were really super excited. They got to swipe their credit card yesterday,
Hmm.
right? But
Yeah.
if that meant they went to, a vacation, maybe they went to Harry Potter World at Disney or something, or I guess they're at Universal, mixing up my metaphors. Um, but they're very excited to share those memories with someone. And so that's really the way that we try to look at it is money is a tool to leverage gaining, these options and this flexibility. You don't have to want to do everything. You don't have to want to be a millionaire. You don't, have to donate all your money to charity. But if you want to do that, then let's figure out how to give you the option to do that. And that's, a lot of where we come in is how do we figure out how to get you to where you want to go? Because your goal
Hmm.
is wonderful and you deserve it.
Hmm.
Cool. Now let's figure out how to do it with the minimal amount of taxes, the minimal amount of stress on your world. You're already probably running around in six different directions, and you feel like you've got to take the kids here and the dog there, and this part of the house has to get fixed, and dinner has to get made, and grocery shopping has to get done, and the list gets on and on and on, right? It just gets crazy. But again, I go back to like this stuff is sometimes it's hard to take care of after the fact.
Hmm.
And one of the hardest calls I think to take for us, where we feel, the most, is when someone calls and says a loved one has passed unexpectedly.
Hmm. Hmm.
And, I did one of those a couple years ago. And, the first question is, do you know where dad's passwords were? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's that's the kind of stuff that gets tough, and it's really hard to go back and undo some of the path that we were on.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's a good point that you said, like if you are planning for the future and something happens, somebody needs to know how to access that. And I think
Yeah.
that that's a really important part of future planning that a lot of
people skip. I don't know, you're the expert, but it seems to me like a lot of people skip past that part because you're either focused on, like the daily tasks that you said, or you've
Hmm.
got this money, it's safe, and you
Hmm.
you kind of just it's out of sight, out of mind. You don't think about, heaven forbid something happens,
Right.
and then what?
Well, it's very uncomfortable, I think, for a lot of people. Like now all of a sudden, like now we're talking about your mortality and if you get really
Yeah.
sick, right? And if your children, maybe they're in their teens, maybe they're in their 20s,
Hmm.
they don't have the appreciation for life that naturally comes as you get older.
Hmm.
And, you bring this up to them and they're going to be like, Mom, Dad, like, where are you going? Like you're like in their mind, you're probably still living forever. And that's the part where I think it gets uncomfortable. Um, and so it's our job to make sure that we ask those questions. And then also too, like, as part of your team, a good attorney as well to kind of draft some of this stuff. And, I know we're talking about things that maybe sound like you had said before that cost a lot of money to do, not as much as you'd think, right? There are, you know, ways to get some of this work done without having to put forth a lot of either time or money. And then on the back end, what you gain as a result of this is you gain this freedom, right? When you hit your pillow every night, what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. You know that people know who to call. You don't have to worry about
Hmm.
that. And so instead of worrying about the future, it's just another step towards helping you live completely in the present and enjoy the moments that you do have with your friends and your family.
Right. In the work that you do you see, like when a couple comes in to talk
Hmm.
about financial planning, is
Yeah.
it usually one of the two has more knowledge and more time and interest invested in the outcome of that, or is it pretty equal?
Uh, It's all of the above. And
Hmm.
even take it for me, right? So, with my wife and I, even for us, I do what I do on a daily basis, having these conversations with everyone. My wife is still very much part of the major financial decisions in our life. And I make sure that she understands, where we're at with those
Hmm.
decisions. Because my wife's a powerhouse, she's got a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences. Like she's smart. She just
Hmm.
doesn't care.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a difference, right? So that for us, it's kind of a divide and conquer.
Hmm.
For other couples, sometimes neither of them, like they're concerned enough to have the conversation, but they don't really want to know things, and that's okay. They just want some guidance and someone to just really point them in the right direction. And
Hmm.
then yeah, sometimes one spouse is, we'll just say, more interested than the other.
Hmm.
Um, I would say for those of you that haven't had this conversation, it happens sometimes where the goals are different between the spouses.
Hmm.
Or I would say maybe not different, but the priority is maybe a little up or a little down. Like
Hmm.
maybe both of you want to make sure that your kids are taken care of, but one of you really wants to make sure that they're like set, like it's ironclad, and one of you is like
Yeah.
maybe on the side of more tough love, like, well, we worked hard, they can figure it out, right? And it's kind of our job, I think, at that point to maybe find a happy medium. Either
Hmm.
answer is okay, but it's our job to kind of like, when I'm doing that, I'm asking questions to make sure that one, are they really our true priorities? And then we kind of organize them appropriately and just let everyone
Yeah.
have their space, let everyone have their opinion, their goal. Um, I don't get to go in the car on the way home.
Yeah.
But in the
Well, I
moment,
bet that can be tricky sometimes because you have two people coming from possibly very different backgrounds.
hmm
I know my husband and I came from different backgrounds where
hmm
my family was kind of money in, money out, and his family
yeah,
was constantly save, save, save.
yeah,
And his his parents got to retirement age and um, they have all this money in the bank. Not that they're like super wealthy, but you know what I mean? They
Yeah.
have this nest egg and now their health is so poor that they can't travel, which was
Right.
something that they wanted to do versus mine where we did all the things, but then when retirement came, there wasn't a lot of money
Oh yeah.
in
I mean,
in the savings.
that happens all the time. And if you're in that boat, don't feel bad. You're not alone. Um, there, and that's where I think a financial professional can help, right? A
Hmm.
financial advisor like myself can help because I don't, it doesn't bother me that you would want to spend your money. What I don't want to see, what like where I see myself as a goal and looking out for you and your family. If you want to travel, I want you to travel. But
Hmm.
I don't want you to achieve your dreams today at the expense of your dreams tomorrow.
Right.
On the flip side of it, we all have a limited amount of energy in life. And as we get towards our golden years, and maybe all of a sudden money is more spent on medical expenses than everything else, you don't want to have any regrets either.
Right.
So if in part of your retirement plan, it was always important to have a little lake house on a lake, in the woods somewhere, right? And that was really important to you, or it's a big vacation, then let's figure out how to do that, take advantage of today, and kind of chart out what this path looks like because that's a bummer. I mean, it's a bummer to get a phone call and say, "Hey, Andrew, can I retire?" And I have to say, "Well, yeah, you are 63, but not the way you want," right?
Hmm.
That's a tough call. And it's a tough call too
Yeah.
to get, hey, I've got all this money. I don't possibly know what to do with this. Now what?
Hmm.
And yeah, so I mean, I definitely sympathize with your family situation. That's definitely the yin and the yang of it.
Yeah. I mean, my mom's almost 93 now,
Yeah.
and my dad passed away a few years ago, but she's she's made it okay.
Mm-hmm.
She's made it okay so far.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what happens. But I love your statement that money is a tool. And I've actually seen my mom use money as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
And it was never a fear of hers that there would be income.
Yeah.
And if there was something she wanted, she would buy quality
Mm-hmm.
and get what she wanted.
Yeah.
I don't know, that she just had this mentality of that it was a tool, like an exchange of energy almost. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Your efforts in exchange for someone else's
Hmm.
efforts. And that's really cool. I mean, I grew up with entrepreneurial parents. My
Hmm.
mom ran a gourmet confectionery business,
Mm.
which sounds awesome to a 10-year-old. But believe it or not, you
Yeah.
do get sick of chocolate. Um, so, we had all that, or we had that exposure to that type of environment. Um, I don't think my mom ever made a lot of money off of the business as a salary or
Hmm.
otherwise. But the education was really cool. But even
Hmm.
so, with all that, like we didn't talk about money because I grew up in the Midwest. Like I said, I grew up in Wisconsin, and Midwest nice is a real thing.
Hmm.
But it also means you don't ask how much something cost,
Hmm.
even if it's a $10 dinner,
Yeah.
right? You don't ask really anything about money. That's just a complete taboo topic that, goes right up there with, politics and religion for the family dinner
Hmm.
table. It's just not talked about. Um, and it's fine when you're six. But when you turn 26 and you want to start looking at, hey, can I buy a house someday or what do I
Hmm.
do? Um, it's tough. And so, I had to learn some things on my own that way. And that's just, again, different backgrounds. Again, it's not a bad thing. It's just the way things were. And so then if you
Right.
earn, then you have to kind of seek it out.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to gain more confidence with money
hmm
and investments, where do they start?
I think the first step is it can be one of two places. Maybe talk to a friend. Um, Obviously we're all friends here now, so you can definitely call me if you've got questions on stuff. And I think have a first conversation. Um, Anyone can help you invest in a stock, right? I don't feel like that's where a financial advisor or my value is as like a service to someone else.
Mhm.
If you talk to a financial professional, I would say, first thing to do is maybe ask them like, what are they most proud of in the context of you vetting them? Just because you'll find out quickly what they think their most important value is to the people they help. And it can vary everything from they think some return where they beat the market is really important, or they use some specific tool and that was really cool, and they're the only ones to use something. Um, or it could be more on the personal side and they answer like, I was able to help, this family through this hard time, and this is kind of what happened. And there's no wrong answer there, but it'll be kind of how you align with those values, those ideas. Um,
Mhm.
that I think is a great step. Step two, whether or not you talk to a financial advisor or a professional of any shade, sit down with your favorite beverage and do an honest budget.
Mm.
Right? It doesn't take any money. It does take a little bit of time. And check out your paycheck. So what's coming in, and then look at your expenses and what's going out the door. And you'll see where your habits are. Whether or not it shocks you enough to do anything, I can't say. But if you sit down, I mean, one of the things that I hear often from that is people get surprised about, deliveries, right? How much they have delivered to their house.
Mhm.
That one and TV subscriptions.
Mhm.
And again, if all those things you write all those down, you're looking at it and it's all in black and white, and you say this is the positive side, this is the negative side, and everything looks okay to you, and you're not upset that whatever is left. That's fine. But usually we find that people have what I like to call a leaky bucket syndrome,
Mhm.
which is they think they know how much they make and they think they know how much they spend, and in the reality, it ends up being so close to almost matching what goes in versus what goes out, which is
Wow.
not necessarily on purpose.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I've heard other organizations or reports say that we lose a lot of money on apps, and like you said, the I shouldn't say any specific names, but there's so many streaming services
hmm
now, and the way they advertise, you have to have their streaming service to watch this show or this movie.
Yeah,
And if you don't get their stream, and it's only this much, but if you have, five or six of those and you're paying for it every single month over a year, those can really add up.
yeah. If you're listening to this and you think this sounds like you, I'm willing to bet you could probably free up 10 to 20% of your income, whatever it is.
Wow.
Obviously, it's a relative scale.
Hmm.
Just on kind of having a better understanding of what's going out the door. Because the other thing that
Hmm.
like gets people, if you've got kids and they have apps where they have like those pay features, those pay as you
Yeah.
play, and it's $2 at a time,
Hmm.
$10 at a time, and all of a
Hmm.
sudden that starts adding up. And so that's kind of like there are little things where all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's $2 here, $2 there, it's not so bad. Or if at the end of the month it's $60, that's a lot, and that adds up over time.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Are there any other leaky bucket items that you would add to the list?
No other leaky bucket items. I would just say kind of as again, as you're going through this journey, I guess, maybe take this time to just kind of clarify like a financial advisor, what they can and cannot do versus like, online research. Because online research is important and it's good to go into situations where you're educated on what the topic is. Like even when I refer people out to estate attorneys, like we have a conversation, but like, hey, these are the things I think you should ask this estate attorney for your situation to make sure that you're prepared and get the best of whatever they can give you. Because AI is wonderful, the internet is wonderful, but there are people out there who are incentivized to speak to a certain message. And I have a family member that investigates actively like um, financial crimes.
Mm,
And some of these things online are very creative. They're very in tune with current psychology and they're very
mm,
easy to fall into. And just generally, as you're kind of looking out there in the world at the information, a general rule of thumb to just be careful of, and this would be a trust but verify situation. The more specific the financial advice that you see put out against a more general audience. So, what I mean by that is if you talk to me and I give you specific advice, that's me to you one on one, that's cool.
mhm.
If you get a specific piece of advice about buying a stock or investing in a certain thing from Twitter, that goes out to the whole world, take a second and really see, is that the right thing for me? Because the financial profession is legislated and guarded by the Securities Exchange Commission, the SEC. So legally, people that are licensed and have gone through tests and classes and done a lot of homework to learn more, they're very controlled about what they can and cannot say publicly versus advice that gets out in the world at a very general level. It might be sound financial advice for you. It might not be that, ultimately we can't say here, but understand that kind of just again where that information is coming from, whether it's AI or a specific person. AI bots are of course out there on social media accounts too. So just as a word of caution as you're doing your research, trust but verify always. Look at a couple different sources, make sure it's a real person always, and
Yeah,
just kind of be mindful of that situation.
yeah. I think another good question is what are they getting out of this?
Yes,
Too. Are they
yes,
are they benefiting financially from this?
yes. Yeah, I mean, things are pretty regular. Like people can't go full Wolf of Wall Street anymore,
Mm,
right? Those people eventually, they get brought to justice that try to go
mm,
down that path. But there are still loopholes or incentives for people to kind of push people down a certain path or encourage
yeah.
them to go there. And so, yeah, just be careful if you're listening. Again,
Hmm.
trust but verify.
Yeah. That's sage advice. Um, I want to dive into the topic of teaching our children how to be financially sound.
Oh, yeah.
Can you speak to that a little bit? We didn't talk about that beforehand, but I just think it's a really important thing to teach habits. Like you said, you grew up in a place where that wasn't really talked about, and I think it's
Hmm.
important to teach kids how their money can work for them. I remember in college reading The Richest Man in Babylon,
Yeah.
and I don't remember a lot about the book, but I do remember learning the principle that your money can work for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I it's a fun topic because like ultimately in finance and the math, right? If we just look at the pure math of it, time wins.
Hmm.
So if you invest in something, even maybe not as an investment that doesn't have as big a return, let's just compare like for round numbers, let's say you invest in something for 5% versus something that you get a return on for 10%.
Hmm.
If you're invested in the thing for 5% for just longer, 10, 20 years, which you can gain with children, then the investment doesn't have to work as hard. You're not as dependent on the math working in your favor just because of the concept of compound interest, right? And it's just a quick refresher for everyone. Compound interest is where a essentially a bigger number grows faster. So $10,000 earning 3% over time is going to grow slower than $100,000. And the
Hmm.
bigger the number gets, the more the money grows. So the math works out in your favor. So, and I coach kids on the weekend, like 4 to 12-year-olds in hockey. I
Hmm.
understand that, maybe sometimes there is a too young side of the financial conversation.
Yeah.
Um, but, you know, once they start getting into middle school math, they're starting to understand more complex topics. And certainly in high school, starting to have those conversations. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can just be, hey, kids kids want they're very good at living in the moment, right?
Hmm.
Everything is today. If you don't get it today, you're never going to get it ever. And I think that's the challenge when you're talking to even probably up to age 25, when, college kids start getting their first salary. Um, so when you're going through that, I would just say, lean on the math part of it. And, you know, this is hard, I think, for people. Like this would have been very hard for my parents. Show the family book,
Hmm.
right? Kind of help them understand, like, you know, this is what it takes to live where we live. This is what it takes to have a car, right? This is what mom and dad have to do in order to provide all of this. And this is the way that the numbers all work out. And so we've got
Yeah.
an electric bill, and we've got a heating bill, and we've got, part that we go into our 401ks, and we've got a little bit that goes into savings. And if you have a financial advisor, like this person helps us with this work over here, a CPA as a tax, person, this is the way that this all works. Um,
Hmm.
Probably can't do this all at once,
Yeah.
but I think in pieces over time.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. And I've just watched my husband teach our kids over time. And I think one of the first things he did was help them learn that their money can grow in a savings account. And then when that got big enough, he said, now if you want, we can invest this in a CD that gets this much more percent. And the kids would
Mhm.
get these statements every month and see how their money is growing.
Yeah.
And that was exciting to them. And pretty soon, even though at first it was hard for them to kind of give that up, to put it in
Yeah.
a CD,
Yeah.
they wanted to keep investing. And they learned the principle just by watching those statements come in and seeing their money grow.
Hmm.
And I think that almost any age, like you said, there probably is a too young, but even in elementary school, a fifth or sixth grader could understand that their
Yeah.
money, that the bank is paying them money to hold on to their money that they're not using right now. So
Yeah.
I think that's good. And I remember my mom, back in the early 90s, credit cards weren't as prolific as they are now. But I was
Hmm.
going off to college and she helped me apply for a credit card. And I remember her saying, don't ever spend more money than you have to pay off. And she taught me
Hmm.
about how much interest the credit card would require if I didn't pay it. And just a simple lesson, but it's stayed with me my whole adult life
For
of,
sure.
just don't use this as a tool, but don't spend more than you have to pay it off because
Yeah.
that'll bite you in the end.
Oh, absolutely. And that's wonderful that like your family is doing that for your children because like and maybe like an easy and I think this is why maybe it gets easier for like middle school and high schoolers, although I think kids have phones earlier than I did.
Yeah.
I didn't get my phone until I got my driver's license. But to help them understand the economy of that, maybe have them be responsible for their part of a phone bill or their part of a
Mm-hmm.
gas bill if they start driving, the family car to high school and back, right?
Yeah.
So they understand if I want to go somewhere, I want to talk to someone, like I have to put something into this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the hardest situation, if if this doesn't happen, right? If you kind of play this out and you don't get this education, my most difficult conversations are end up being with people that have gotten found money. And when I say found money, that's, gambling winnings, life insurance payouts, court payouts, anything where like we all of a sudden we had a little bit of money and now we have comparatively a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And the natural human inclination is to say, oh, well, this is found money. I didn't work for this, so I get to have
Mm-hmm.
fun with it. Okay. Yes. I mean, that is one way to look at it. Um, but like for one client, we completely changed her entire retirement picture
Mm.
with a couple of easy things to do. We took her from a 60% picture of funded retirement to we went, I think, to 140%. So
Oh,
basically she
wow.
could live on more money in retirement than she had wanted to.
Wow. That's amazing.
Or she could have said, well, we're going to buy this car and we're going to go on this vacation and we're going to do this, that, and the other thing. And next thing you know, it's gone. And then she
Mm-hmm.
would have still been in the same retirement spot. And that's where, like, teaching children, high school, middle school age, and college, if they can start in college, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
College kids are the toughest for sure. Um, because if you don't work for it, it can have a tendency to slip right through your fingertips.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and if you're worried about that with your own kids, there are ways to manage that situation,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but, and help your children learn that lesson. Like it's never too late to kind of have that conversation, to have, get that kind of thing started. But
Mm-hmm.
um, that's like fast forwarding, that's what can happen to people is it just slips right through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think kind of the long and the short of it is with money, the sooner you get on it, the better. The
Hmm.
sooner you pay off your credit cards, the better. The sooner you invest in your future, the better. Because, like you said, time is your friend.
Yeah, and it's not invest at the expense of your life. It's not
Hmm.
save at the expense of being able to go out to dinner with your loved ones, right? You can have
Yeah,
both. There is a
right.
pathway to have both. And and I think that's sometimes where some of the hesitation is on having these conversations is, you're going to talk to someone like me and I'm going to say, well, you should, you make, $5,000 and you're going to put $2,500 towards your life expenses and the rest of 2,500 we're going to put in savings. Like, no,
Hmm.
that's terrible. Who wants that life where you're just living to save?
Yeah,
So, you talked about that with you know, your in-laws where, they didn't,
yeah,
they saved too much, right?
yeah,
There is
yeah,
absolutely a balance there to strike.
yeah, yeah. Well, while we wrap this up, I have a couple of kind of like lightning round questions to ask you.
Oh,
So
cool.
I've never done this before, but I just thought it would be fun. If
Sure.
just answer the first thing that comes to your mind. You
Okay.
ready?
Got it. Ready.
What is one financial habit everyone should build?
Uh, balance your checkbook, as it were. So I know no one has a checkbook anymore, but balance what goes in with what goes out.
Hmm. Perfect. What's one financial myth people should stop believing?
You have to be a millionaire to have a financial advisor and an estate attorney.
Mm,
You do not.
yeah. And what's one piece of financial advice you wish more people knew?
I guess the one piece of financial advice I wish more people knew is again, there's no shame in a dollar. It's a tool. I think that's the thing, is it's a tool to create options and flexibility. There's a lot of different ways to implement that tool, but it's just a tool.
Great. Is there anything else you want to add before we close up?
No, it was a wonderful conversation. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me on. It's been great talking to you, and I look forward to more episodes of your show. For anyone that wants to continue the conversation with me, just noshameinadollar.com. All I promise is a conversation, nothing else. There's no money needs to exchange hands or anything. I just want to help and serve the community, and that's what I'm here for, is to educate. And so that's how you can find me.
That's really great. Thanks, Andrew. Did you have a download for our listeners?
It's not a download. Kind of going back to a little bit um, the restrictions, as it were, on what I can and
Oh, yeah,
cannot
yeah,
say like publicly in a very general setting.
yeah.
Um, our conversations are best had one-on-one, and that's why the
Hmm.
first one that I promise is just, hey, see if we're a good fit, and if not now,
Yeah.
sometime in the future, that's okay too. So yeah, not a download, just the promise of a good conversation.
Okay. So tell us again where we can find you.
NoShameInADollar.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you for this enlightening conversation, Andrew. Thanks for being our guest on the podcast. And to all of our listeners, we are so glad that you're listening and that you're here with us. We're here for you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for joining us on the comeback season. Please remember, the conversations we share here are for informational and motivational purposes only. We are not licensed medical professionals, and this podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, or replace guidance from your doctor or your healthcare provider. Always consult your healthcare team before making changes to your nutrition, your fitness, or your mental health routines. Your health and well-being comes first, and we want you to move forward safely with the right support for your journey.